just give us then a rundown of what the first lineup was of the Models.
Well, the first lineup was myself, and then 3 gentlemen from another, I guess, Australian punk group called Jab, and they were Ash Wednesday,
Johnny Crash
and Pierre, Mr. Pierre. And we rehearsed for about 3 or 4 months before we did any shows. We started doing some shows. Pierre left, we got Mark Ferry in the group. Ash left, we got Andrew Duffield, and we cut our first record. And that kind of routine went on for a couple of years, and Mark Ferry left. James Freud arrived and started playing bass in the band. The group's attitude at that time was a very kind of casual one towards recording, because we formed and existed essentially as a live performing group. And I think when we finally got into the studio, which was some time after we actually formed and started performing, I think we were just sort of totally confused about the whole recording industry.
You had an amazing following, there was no doubt on that, on the Melbourne circuit. I mean, it was almost like religious following. And your live gigs were just, well, I mean, just really something to go to. And yet you still felt, to me, it looked as if you still seemed to be happier playing live and not particularly interested in what was going on, perhaps, as far as selling records. Would that have been true?
Yeah, definitely. In those days, Models for me was just, you know, I just wanted to be in a band. That was what I wanted to do. I was sort of, in a way, I was the singer because I was the only guy in the band who could, with a voice, who could sort of project, you know.
When did you decide to join with Sean again?
Well, after I broke up James Freud in Berlin, you know, I shaved my head and went and lived in this house in Richmond and recorded, you know, this really arty kind of music that, you know, was really depressing. And then I went to England and lived there for 4 months. And, you know, everything just went wrong for me, you know, and I thought, oh, this is crazy, you know. I just could tell that I wasn't meant to be there. And the day before I left to go to London, Sean had played me the tapes from Local Landor General. He'd just got back as I was leaving. And I just thought it was the best thing I'd ever heard, you know. And so I thought, well, I'm going to go back and join the Models. You know, I didn't know how I was going to join the Models because, you know, they had their lineup and everything, but I did. And
so, Sean, what happened?
Just before James arrived in Australia, the Models had really ground to a halt. Mark Ferry had left the group. In fact, we'd just stopped performing altogether. So, yeah, James just obviously started playing bass with the group. And soon after that, we got Barton in the band. And for me, that was just the best because we had a really big, tight, rhythmic sounding rhythm section.
You seem to have, as a group, this thing to want to stay in the clubs, not to branch out from anything apart from that you had your set following and you were quite content in playing to them, and that was it, you know? It was almost closed shop, closed club, you know? Do you know what I mean? Did that exist, or was it my imagination?
No, it did exist. I think it was a real sort of period of limbo for us because this is assuming we're talking about the same piece of time. Between albums, we'd put a record out that we thought was, you know, a brilliant record, and it wasn't as well received as what we thought it would be. So I guess in that sort of a situation, all you can do, and I mean, it's not that bad at all. It was, I mean, it's wonderful to be able to get up and play music in a band, so obviously that's what we did.
Right.
We're just biding our time writing songs.
Well, then it'd be fair to say that I Hear Motion became one of the first big breakthroughs on a sort of national scale and going to sort of like, I'd say to people outside the clubs buying records. I Hear Motion was the one that really did it then. Whether you wanted to get outside the clubs or not.
Well, we did. I mean, when we went in to record that album, we all went in with the specific purpose to make a good dance record. You know, that was what Nick Launay and us all had in mind. And we really felt that album was going to be a big album for us. We thought it was going to, you know, reach the masses. And it did to a certain extent, but it also didn't. It didn't do very much at all, you know. So
Mind you,
we
it was a steady seller, though.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. But it wasn't what we thought it would do.
Obviously, we try and create some sort of thread within an album as well. And then, consequently, we try to make all our albums sound slightly different, as if they have a slightly different thread.
Just looking back, the two of you obviously work very well together, and that's probably, as I say, you're like brothers growing up. To share the lead vocals, was that easier for the both of you in the end? I mean, did it take a lot off you, Sean?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, I find the situation the way it is now compared to the way it was before James joined and TeWitt started singing. I find it preferable because, as I said earlier in the interview, I always just wanted to be in a band and be playing music that I believe in and stuff. I never particularly, you know, wanted to be the guy up the front singing and stuff. I love that aspect of it as well. So there's no kind of, we don't have any sort of ego problems or anything because my attitude is so good.
Right. Is the band very steady at the moment? I mean, like, you've obviously had some major lineup changes. In fact, when Andrew Duffield left the group, a lot of people felt that, that it might be, you know, the start of the end of the Models, which wasn't so.
Well, the nucleus of Barton, James and myself we're sort of something like, we're approaching our 5th anniversary. And so there it is. I mean, we have an incredibly stable band just in the three of us. Roger has just fitted in incredibly. It's as if they're, I mean, with deference to all Andrew's work, it's as if Roger had been with us all the time or something, because we all sort of think the same way, and it's great.